The diversity of water bird species that can be found in the state of Florida is absolutely staggering, and when you examine the ecosystems that dominate the landscape, this comes as no surprise. Florida is covered in aquatic habitats, including swamps, lakes, and mangroves, and the avian life of the region has adapted to thrive in these areas. In this episode of our Florida Waterbird mini-series, we are going to take a look at some easily recognizable species that we saw just about everywhere we went. All of these birds were target species for us to film, and we were incredibly happy to get them all on camera. So if you guys are ready, let's take a look at some of the most iconic waterbird species of Florida. By and large, the most common avian species we encountered in Florida was the American white ibis, a wading bird species found throughout most of the New World tropics. The American white ibis favors areas of shallow marshlands, mangroves, and coastal wetlands from the southern United States through Central America and down to Colombia, where their range overlaps with other species. White ibises are also commonly found in urban settings, particularly around retention basins in public areas that are very common in southern Florida. These guys are a communal species and are commonly seen foraging in groups of 24 or more. In fact, some breeding colonies observed in Florida have been counted at over 30,000 individuals. The American white ibis wasn't the only ibis species we encountered in southern Florida, though. We also came across the glossy ibis. Believe it or not, the glossy ibis is the most widespread of all ibis species, and can be found on 6 of the 7 continents, except Antarctica, of course. They occur commonly in Florida and are typically found in brackish wetlands and mangrove habitats. Glossy ibises get their name from their iridescent green plumage, and can easily be distinguished from the bright white coloration of the white ibis. Both ibis species have similar diets, feeding on aquatic prey such as insects, crustaceans, and small fish. Though these guys fill very similar niches, not much competition exists between the species, and they cohabitate quite well. Ibises are an incredibly iconic species in Florida, and whenever we explore the southern Florida ecosystem, they are some of our favorite birds to come across. While exploring the mangroves of southern Florida, we were lucky enough to encounter both resident night heron species, the black-crowned night heron and the yellow-crowned night heron. Black-crowned night herons are named for their trademark black cap, which stands out against their light gray plumage and wispy white head feathers. Similarly, the yellow-crowned night heron gets their name from their yellow crowns, which run from their beak to the back of their heads. Night herons are found primarily in marshes, mangroves, and wooded swamps, where they spend most of their time foraging. As their name would suggest, these guys hunt mostly at night, though can sometimes be observed foraging during daytime hours. They feed mainly on crustaceans, fish, and amphibians, and will sometimes take small birds or rodents. One fascinating thing about their hunting style is that some night herons have been observed using bait to lure fish. They throw small particles into the water and wait patiently for fish to investigate, striking when they're within range. Both black and yellow-crowned night herons can be pretty elusive species, so we were incredibly fortunate to have encounters with both of these rare wading birds. One easily recognizable species that we encountered is the Doublecrested Cormorant, one of the most widely distributed water birds that we came across. They can be found from Alaska to Florida, and they inhabit a wide variety of aquatic habitats, from coastlines and estuaries to marshes and lakes. Double-crested cormorants are adept hunters, feeding on fish and amphibians which they catch by diving under the surface of the water and snagging them with their sharp, curved beaks. Another species that shares this feeding tactic is the American Anhinga, perhaps the most unique waterbird species found in Florida. American Anhingas are found across the southern US and through Central and South America, where they inhabit warm, shallow water habitats such as swamps and lakes. Anhingas feed by diving into the water and swimming below the surface in pursuit of prey, which primarily consists of fish, amphibians, and aquatic reptiles. They have dense bones and webbed feet that allow them to swim very effectively, and it is this characteristic behavior that has given them their famous nickname, the Snakebird. When Anhingas are swimming, only their necks stick out from the water, and because of this, they seem to resemble a large snake moving through the environment. Though they spend a great deal of time in the water, their feathers are actually not waterproof, and after they emerge from a hunt, Anhingas must sun themselves and dry their feathers so that they are able to fly again. We observed many of these guys perched along the water's edge, sunning themselves or getting ready for a hunt, and watching them swim and catch their prey was a fascinating experience. Every time we ventured out into the wilderness of Florida, water birds were always one of the first animals we came across. Their prevalence is both a reflection of their adaptability and also of the richness of the ecosystems of Florida, and getting these iconic birds on camera was a real privilege. In our minds, no trip to Florida would be complete without seeing species like ibises and anhingas. They are such an integral part of the ecosystem, and their unique behaviors make them a treat to observe. There is another group of water birds, though, that is perhaps even more quintessential to Florida: herons and egrets. The next episode of this mini-series will focus on all of the incredible wading birds that we encountered, and trust me guys, you will not want to miss it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and comment down below what your favorite species was in this episode. And be sure to subscribe to the Wildlife Brothers now, because we have so much more content coming out for you guys and you will not want to miss it. See you later everyone!